So I see some known faces in the crowd. Good morning. I hope you slept well last night. A little piece of night that was left. Thank you. Who of you is using Snowflake? 1, 2, 3, 4. In a crowd of about 60? That's actually great. So, how did I get to this topic? About 2 years ago, there was a quite known company which started with choosing a technology for a data warehouse, and somehow they chose Snowflake. And before I came, they started it the usual way. It's great. All the sales pitches were done really good. They started doing something. Then it worked. And it worked quite well. And this is a really old series, which we all like, IT Crowd. And this scene is the lady giving him, a box, this doesn't work, fix it. And you can go also back and look at this picture differently. You have a new toy. You just bought a new toy. The toy is called Snowflake. It's extremely cool. It can do many things. Let's play with the toy. So how does it start? You get a user account. You have a dataset, you load the dataset inside, you start using all the fancy features you read about. Of course, because you are the first user, you get admin account. Then you take a couple of friends. You read some documentation? Not. You watch some videos? No. You test the features. They work. Then they work slow. Why? Because you did everything wrong. What is the first step in optimizing? Give me more hardware. My query is amazing. What I want to do, I do perfectly, but the stupid system is slow. Then you start giving the instance up. Oh, I need more hardware. Why? It will work faster. Then you start moving in data. You have a cool new feature. Let's test the new feature. But let's not test it, because we want to see the real world case. Let's not test it on 100,000. Let's test it on 1 million. Of course, you screw up. The system is shit. I need more hardware. And then it works cool, but it works on an Excel instance. But there's a little tiny bit in the documentation which says how much it costs. Nobody reads those details. What a second, 0.001 credit, and here it's 0.01. Yeah, it's 0.0 something. Nobody understands the little comma means a lot of money. And it works. And then you start doing production stuff. And it's amazing. You only forget that you are using a lot of hardware, but it works. It works as advertised. The fact that you screwed up from day one, you're hiding with hardware. So how it starts? One or more use cases. You will load your entire on-premise inside. Not a selected POC part. Let's load everything. We want automated scaling. Automated scaling is amazing. If something doesn't work, we add more hardware. We want to see if cloud works. Somehow it does. You have a basic infrastructure and it does work. And this is actually a good motivation. Compliance works. You got some money to play. You promise you will do a POC for 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. And then we create the admin guy. we connect it to the outside world, we get a lot of data inside, because how can we test without terabytes? Then why wouldn't we not use Oracle anymore? We onboard first users. This is as soon as it's possible, because we need to prove value, right? And we presume that users know SQL. This is a wrong assumption. Because why? We know Python. SQL is for old-timers. Who teaches SQL anymore? It's those boring people. What, joins? I need to know to learn joins. I have a Python library that does it for me and generates the code. This is for old people. But it works. Let me repeat one little sentence on a strong hardware, but it works, right? We have 3 to 6 months. All is great. And then you get a phone call. A little tiny bit called an invoice. Somebody calls you. Usually a guy in a suit, which is called a CFO. Or your manager or somebody. What the fuck are you doing? We got an invoice. You said 1,000. No, it's 100,000. Oh, really? But we just played with blah, blah, blah. Who did it? No way I know. We just gave access to 5 departments. They played with Tableau. These guys played with Python. They loaded it in data science tools. How did they load? Well, I'm not actually looking at what they are doing, but they say it works great. But how are they using your system? You know how it starts? They use Tableau. Connect to source data. Data science really loves source data, raw data. And then in this use case, because they know Python, they don't know SQL, it's for old-timers, they connected the tables in Tableau, generated the SQL from Tableau, and created a task in a database to create their dashboard, directly generated from Tableau. But it works. Of course it works. Who would write an SQL? And then there is a name for it. This is not a proper name. It's operational monitoring. It can be called optimization, improvement. It usually comes from this nice phone call. Yeah? So what we built. For disclosure, this is 500 people connecting and around 25,000 users internally and no external users. Snowflake comes with this beautiful snow site, which is more or less okay for quick stuff, but not so good for complex stuff. And I'm not allowed to show more than this. I actually had to get approval for this. So I will show a small subset. Small subset means around 10 things which are shown. In total, there is like 25 reports. The first thing we did, we shared it with everybody. Because if you send it only to the people that actually made a mistake, there will be finger pointing. Finger pointing is evil in corporates. No one can be guilty. And no one can be responsible. So it's public. We started with daily orchestration. Top X queries, top X whatever. So the first message was not everybody screwed up, but let's optimize the first top N. Top N should be at least top 90%, but you cannot politically say it. So you start with top 1%. And to not finger point, we started sending to private inboxes emails. It might be nice if you would optimize this. Of course, not fix, optimize. And we created Slack channels where it would be completely anonymous who did it. But if the owner could please take a look, of course we would know who the owner is. We would never say it publicly. But this query, which was running last night, spent $100. Could you please take a look? Whoever is the owner, this mystical person. And we means 25 people in the team, a set of best practices. You know which best practices? You know the ones which we, all generation, learned on universities. SQL best practices. Please do not use in statements with 100 items inside. Please do not use joins which have 25 tables in a left join. You know, those things which failed you at university in my time, because it's for all timers. And we try to dynamically monitor. So each of these money spending things, we started to optimize. Go, come. So this is how it started to look. Of course, the numbers are hidden. And of course, this could not be attributed to any person. But we showed publicly across the entire organization how much we are spending. So now we have a political problem. We are in POC phase. We give no value to the company, and we are spending this money. Look at this. But we are writing it really optimally. How much data we are loading? And then the first response is, yeah, we are loading more data, so we are spending more money. If you know anything about Snowflake, storage cost is about the least money price topic. So what actually happened? Business wanted access. There was no governance 2.5 years ago. They wanted some data inside. They got the access. And they didn't load LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter APIs. 5 users. Oh, but what is a POC without half of North America? On the same query which was generated on Tableau. And then, used credits over time. So we created a Excel warehouse for processing, and somebody gave business Excel warehouse. Look at the blue part. Blue part is business Excel warehouse. This is loading around 150 gigabytes per day from 25 sources with a shitload of business logic. This is business running the old-fashioned, nobody learns it anymore, SQL queries. Custom-made, generated from Tableau. They work amazing, by the way. The biggest sausage was 1,200 lines of SQL. A person sat on it, an amazing guy from India. He wrote it in 60 lines. But he learns SQL, you know, the old-fashioned stuff. Second step, which we also gave to everyone, was how much money was spending over time. This is account level. Of course, I hid the numbers, but they're all 6. It started, let's all play. Then nobody used it because the IT people, oh, it's a gadget, the IT guys are playing. And then business connected. And then business connected even more. And if you would see on the slope is like this. Money spending like hell. This budget, October 2022, October 2023, this was a 2-year budget. If we would extrapolate this to this would be done in 9 months. A 2-year budget. And then a phone call came. What the fuck? Okay? Then Next step. How many times are we actually doing something? And this little number is how many times those beautiful things we gave the access to are queried. So the most popular tables were queried within 5 months, 128,000 times. The problem is they didn't need to be queried. Why? Why write things optimally when you can refresh a cube 5 times per day? No? Next step. You see this little thing is? Guess which warehouse is that one? Yeah. But what's the story behind? I have more nice slides. I will continue the story. This was all public. This went public across the organization. And then you can start fixing things. So next one. This is what we did properly. This is service account usage. This was Airflow. At this moment, it took around 60 minutes for more complex stuff to load. Yeah. And this was more or less, we see these ones, which are almost equal. And then you have peaks. You know what was the peak? We will not load 10%. We will want a full 100%. And then somebody around 2 years ago, this is still not fixed because if you see the dates, it's 2023. It's still there, but it's much better than before. Said, okay, we want admin rights on Airflow. Somebody gave them admin rights on Airflow. And then somebody who doesn't know SQL because it's old-fashioned thing, started writing in Python their own flows. What? It's a database. They told us it's big data. We can do whatever we want. And then about 1 year later, you have this. And then, at that moment, this is a dangerous slide. We connected it to the HR system, which they have there, loaded the org chart, and you could see a name. Oh, now we have a problem. We have a person. We have a unit. And we have an assigned cost center / manager. About here, the costs went down to 75% of initial cost. And then data science onboarded. And data science is a group in that company of amazing, amazing young people who write Python. And nothing but Python. Because, let me repeat the statement from before. And this is a data science department. And now we have a problem. Because this is visible. So we need to start fixing things. And how do you fix something like this? By denying access. We had to get permission for this. So they were rejected access for 1 week. They could only get an XS instance, not an Excel. Panic mode. What do? We cannot do our work. Good. Show us what you did. Shit. We do amazing things. Yeah, show. We have no issue. We will help you. Show. Session, Teams, no issue. Our people don't have time, then leave US. No issue. We will connect in the morning. But they're on holidays. No issue, tomorrow. Shit. Okay, show. And then we made this beauty. It was again available on an org chart. But look at this. This is the auto-generated code which those people were running. And look at this little spyware. Email name. You were no longer anonymous. You were no longer part of the organization. Now there is a name to your fuck up. And then you have a beauty, and there are tasks. These are tasks, by the way, which failed. And you see this little beautiful thing. Statement aged its warehouse timeout of 20 minutes under Excel instance. It went to timeout. You really have to be a master to kill Excel instance. And then we did a simple count, 400 of those per day. Now start imagining the cost of 400 tasks per day on an Excel instance, 0.01 money per day. We are talking thousands of dollars per day. But there are now names. So what started was one of the biggest exercises that company ever made. Almost 500 people went to a course, educated course, with a mandatory certification of guess which language? That one for all timers. All the new data scientists started learning SQL. They hated it. I heard the rumors that some people quit because of this, because they will not learn legacy languages. Then tasks started, and I was allowed to put this slide. Tasks succeeded. I was not allowed to put cancelled, but they were like, you see, tasks failed column. You would have tasks which would fail for hundreds of times. And then there was a simple question, why didn't you stop it running? It failed hundreds of times into timeout. And you know, if you click replay again, it will not work if it didn't work 113 times. And it succeeded 0 times. But there is now an evil thing, there is your name behind it. Because what we did, tasks are done under role, but you can find in the query history who created the task. And we exposed the task creators. You could not hide under a technical role anymore. There was a name. And the name had the money. And there were people with money in tens of thousands of dollars a person, not a unit, not a service account, not the evil software, a person. And then we came to the most beautiful slide. Task table usage history. How is our system used? Who is using our system? And then you have a table which I had to hide, some sizes, which are in these amounts. This is megabytes, so 24 terabyte. And this is a POC. And you are running Excel stuff on 24 terabyte sizes. Excellent. Who did it? And our software had a name which was called spyware. It was super beautiful, positive thing. And we started doing it. And out of this is the case study, we were allowed to refactor entire Snowflake. When we started 2 years something, it had 250 roles, which were servicing 500 users. And out of those 500 users, almost all were sysadmins. What first we did, we killed everybody access. And see who would cry most. Except service accounts, the business had to go on. We killed all logins, everybody. And we understood that over 300 people, out of 500, connected, created tasks, see them failed, and logged off. And never logged in again. But they left tasks running. And then emails started going. At that moment, the spent money was in millions of dollars. Then, We started doing it proper. Now it has 20 roles, and then nobody sees admin anymore. And nobody can use Excel. So the maximum you can use is M, but that will be a spyware, which will, if you use it more than 3 times, there will be an email. Do you need help with that old-fashioned language nobody's using? So what we did next? Nobody could get sysadmin, account admin, whatever admin. Each role would belong to, look at what? Not your business, not your tool. Because there was a Tableau role which was sysadmin. That was amazing. By org chart, by department. So if department 1 made 10K, then department 1 needs to explain why they made 10K. And they would get almost nothing. They would get excess. And if they wanted more, they would need to ask and explain. Nobody could be account admin, sysadmin, whatever admin. Only 5, 6 roles would get this. We started looking from the logs how objects are used. And then we understood that, of course, because again, nobody uses the old language anymore, they would load in each reload of Tableau cubes entire data set. Why? Because it's auto-generated code. Incrementals, forget about those trivial things. Tasks. You know what was the criteria? Only the longest code. So all the tasks which have more than 1,000 lines, which was more than half. And of course, we stopped them. And then people started crying. And then came the beautiful refactoring. I think it's called refactoring. Refactoring is a name when you drop everything and write from scratch. Serious governance means that the company employed 2 people who were doing nothing else except doing spyware. There's more reports than I showed behind. Who is doing what? Not the content, but how much cost people started producing. Did we spend enormous amounts of money to load something which nobody is using? And decreased sizes of warehouses. So at this moment, the cost dropped to 20% of last year, 20%. And we are talking millions here. This is one of the biggest accounts. So what else is on the roadmap? So I really like this comic. So if you're a junior, you think you will be, hacking. If you are some age, you want to plant something in the garden. So when somebody asks me, what do you do in 5 years? In this case, we started doing full approval CI/CD on production. No business cannot do anything anymore on production. They can do it on dev, they can do it on test. Business is not allowed to play on production anymore. This killed shitload of cost. What means cost control? There were weekly reports of how much each person spent, including IT. It was not a spyware, but yeah. As any other database, there is more and more new features you need to test. And actually, you can cut costs significantly when you start using the new stuff. This was fun. So you have people from age 25 to age 50 plus, 60 plus, who were obliged, because this is an American company, by the threat of firing, to learn that old legacy language. And they had to certify. But not certify, you know, a vendor comes, you listen for 3 days and you get a paper which says you're certified. No. Official certification in Permetric. Panic mode. I didn't do this for 20 years. Why am I forced to do this? I don't need this. Let IT handle it. They're bothering us, we cannot do our work. And we started asking the business what they will actually do. To note, business in this case is very technical, on paper. And then, of course, what was the response? Who are you to tell us what we want to do? Why should we tell you? You don't. Go to report 17 and check it out in a week. You want free hands? Good. Check report 17 in 2 weeks. Will you take responsibility for the next invoice? Magically, everybody produced the roadmaps. Wow. That's the end of the presentation. I think I'm like 5 minutes over time. Q&A. Please do. I actually spoke more than I wanted, so. Questions? Yes, please.
Hi, thank you. It was super interesting, and this is exactly what our experience is. If you had to create an ideal scenario, how would you do it?
I think that, okay. I think there is a roadmap, which I showed. Ideally, you cost control from day one. Very simple. And you don't onboard 500 people in week 2. If these queries are not rocket science, they're all from logs of Snowflake. You just do this before you onboard anybody, and you cost control. Maybe it's fine that you spend 10K in a week. Maybe this is your business, but I want to see what you did. And then implement. It's how the fancy name is, governance, right? You just govern. There is no better answer. Do this and actually look at these reports. And when they see a spike, ask why there is a spike. That's about it. There is no better answer.
I see what you mean here, but the problem is when you're doing a POC, for example, right? There's I think what you showed is an extreme, but it kind of happens because if they load too little,
they get nothing.
But it is also not representative.
Yes.
So once you go to the full project, you're screwed.
I have no issue with loading.
If they load everything, then you get into these situations where a POC is costing so much that you did not even expect, and like how do you get realistic estimates?
I cannot show a slide how much Snowpipe costs versus everything else. So loading automated into Snowflake. Nothing. Comparing to compute, Snowpipe costs nothing.
Yes, when I said load, I meant compute. So you want them to really run on realistic volumes.
Yes.
If they run their stuff on 1,000 lines, I'm not interested in this anyway because it's not representative.
I have no issue that you spend 10K, but you need to tell why you spent it. You cannot have 300 tasks running blank for nothing. So that's what I mean by governance. Maybe there is a reason why you spend, but I need to know the reason. And like you said, it has to be representative, but then it's controlled. But you cannot have 500 people doing whatever they want. Then it's chaos. Then it's not POC. Yeah. Anybody else? And we can do coffee afterwards, if you want, because we are over. Anybody else?
I'm on the step discussion about spike.
Okay.
And in my case, it's never-ending story. You know, when I ask question, I explain everything from the beginning to that step, and then even the most responsible and the cleverest people are eager to claim that this is necessary.
Okay.
without any idea of the money and how should I act. So I need a help from somebody to give all these people awareness of the money. People don't want to be aware of that. Managers, yes, but the engineers know, and I struggle to connect all this circle, I would say.
Is it necessary? If it is necessary, I answer to the lady the same thing, then it's fine. But can they prove that it's necessary? So there is no issue if the cost is okay. There is a lot of things which are okay in what I've shown. In that spike might be totally fine. But a huge piece of these spikes is usually not fine. So you say you have, let's say, 2 people who are doing, maybe they're doing the good stuff. How do they prove that they are doing the correct thing?
They never been told they should monitor their consumption. Never, ever.
Not even by the person who is paying the bill?
No.
Then there is no motivation to improve. Then let's talk because the next lecture, but let's do coffee outside, okay? Thank you all. Thank you.